we continue to have, some of these niche players in the US. So ones that we look at that trade at, substantial valuation discounts to the MSOs, but are, either targets for those MSOs or targets for a roll-up strategy and are operating, good profitable businesses. So Vibe is one, Vext is one, C21 is another. Those are all examples of that.
Hey everybody, Bruce Campbell is back. He is the CEO and President Portfolio Manager of StoneCastle Asset Management, as well as the Chief Investment Officer of the Cannabis Growth Opportunity Corporation. Bruce, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. Appreciate it.
You bet, Bruce. You didn't burn down in the BC fires, I see.
Well, we haven't yet. We still, the verdict is still out there. I know there's quite a few around the province, so the smoke's here, but we don't see any flames right now.
Sure. Bruce, what major developments have occurred in the cannabis sector since we last spoke back in, I guess it was early June?
Yeah, there's been a few. We continue to see more jurisdictions move towards legalizing marijuana in the U.S. So we've seen, we've seen Connecticut and Vermont move towards that. Obviously, New York, New Jersey are there. You've seen in Canada, you've seen there's sort of a lull in sales data, and now you're starting to see that reaccelerate again. And you're really seeing a bit of a bifurcation here as well. So, you're seeing some of the big producers in Canada losing market share. So, if you look at Canopy and Aurora last month, their data was down a little bit. And you see some of the smaller producers, so like Organigram, they actually picked up quite a bit of market share with their new shred products. So there's obviously some interesting trends there as well. And it, the sector is been going through a bit of a correction here, but the fundamentals have actually been quite strong.
Mm-hmm. Are there any sort of breakout, remarkable developments among any of the companies that you really sort of stand out?
Well, down in the U.S., you continue to see some of the numbers that are exceptional. There's some, obviously the biggest number, the biggest companies, the Trulieve, the Curaleafs. They produce some nice numbers, but there's some small guys in there too that are generating some nice returns. So if you look at something like a C21, which operates in Nevada, if you look at something like a Grown Rogue, which operates in Oregon. They've had some phenomenal numbers, obviously a lot smaller numbers, but profitability wise, they've seen some nice numbers as well. And then, one of the things that we continue to watch is the trend in California, in that, you continue to see, much like you saw in Canada, you just see this tipping point where, it's going from being illegal and really black market to where it's becoming more and more legal, regulated market all the time. So we think that's going to be a huge opportunity given the size of that market.
Mm-hmm. Is there a risk that California, much like Canada quickly became, I think of Canada in the context of a state market because, especially compared to California, the whole country is not as big as California. But is there a risk in California, in your opinion, of oversaturation of competitors on the legal side in California as that market improves?
100%. Yeah. That's why, I suspect that's why, if you were to drill down and look at the big MSOs, most of them are really east of the Mississippi. They haven't really come into California in any great size. And I think a function of that is the fact that, it is really wide open, right? There's no real competition. There's no limited amount of licenses. If you can get through the regulatory burden, you can basically be licensed, and then you're out there competing with everyone else. And it just really comes down to, a few different things. If you're on the premium side, it comes down to, how much THC content you have in your product. And if you're on the value side, it really comes down to the THC content for the price that you pay. And there are brands, it's, that's probably oversimplifying things. There are brands that are emerging, especially in the products. So, you see a lot of different companies that are starting to emerge there. But it is certainly challenging, and it's, going to be difficult. And it's like that with everything in California, not just cannabis, but it's a challenging market. It's a difficult market. And, they always talk about, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. Well, I think if you can make it in California, you can make it anywhere, right?
Right. The, everybody's always focused on the THC component of the market, yet My experience and my observation suggest to me that the much greater potential is in the CBD products, in that CBD is something that can be used by a broader range of people because of the absence, well, what is referred to as the absence of a psychotropic effect. In my experience, it's just very subtle, but there's definitely a psychotropic effect. Um, but but beyond that, there are so many daily therapeutic applications for CBD, and I always look at this whole market and feel like, geez, everybody's focused on THC, but really the great opportunity for humanity on the medical side for me derives from CBD, and so I'm always curious as to why it's not so talked about. Is there a reason for that?
Well, I think the low hanging fruit is really the reason, right? I mean, the world has been consuming cannabis for thousands of years. And then, for the last 100 years, it's been illegal. And, most of the people that were using it weren't using it for really for medicine. There certainly was a part of the population that was. A lot of people were using it strictly from a recreational standpoint to get that effect of, being high. And now what you're seeing is that, as these different jurisdictions around, North America and also the world start to work towards legalization, you're seeing that those people who have been buying from, the black market, the drug dealer around the corner, are now coming into the regulated market. And so they're looking for that THC product. What the bigger market is, sort of longer term, is the medical market, right? Not medical in that, you have a medical card for, recreational use, but really from a pharmaceutical aspect, right? So looking at CBD and what that can do for, a number of different ailments that you might have, looking at some of the other sort of more minor cannabinoids that, right now are difficult to really produce and extract, but where, when we start to get into, some of the other production methods, and if we actually move to a synthetic cannabis, those are going to be able to be produced at a more cost-effective way. So, like a CBN as an example, then that's where those will be exploited as well. And it's not to get high, but it's to get well, as Todd Harrison likes to say.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's an apt analysis in my book. So then, for now, we're locked in this THC sort of recreational market warfare on the part of the large incumbent multi-state operators. And have you got a sense of any of these, of the largest ones? Are there any of these that are sort of runaway breakout, clearly going to be a market leader more so than any of its peers?
Not really. I mean, we really like, kind of the top five there, right? I mean, they all seem to have their kind of niche in a couple of different states, and then they're obviously growing and expanding as well. But there isn't anyone that we like, say like absolutely have to own that one, because there's limitations. Like if you were only looking at Florida, well, obviously Trulieve, you absolutely have to own it because they have a big market share, but other companies have absolute, huge market shares in other areas. If you look at, GTI where they operate, or if you look at, Cresco where they operate, they all kind of have their niches, and they're all competing in sort of the other fringe markets right now, and they're all competing quite well and producing great numbers.
Sure. There are some people around Trulieve who are continuously mentioned in the news as being investigated by various enforcement agencies in the United States surrounding different aspects of how they built that business. Have you got any sense of what the status of that is, and does that constitute a risk to the future valuation of Trulieve at this point?
Yeah, I mean, there's always been, even from the very get-go, there's always been some news out there sort of floating in the background about, what could potentially come about, what, sort of investigations were out there, what kind of like haze was over, not the pun intended there, but what the haze might be in the background of some of the operators. When I say operators, I'm not talking about like operating the business, but like the people involved and what's happened. And I mean, that's always been a concern. And I mean, that's probably one of the reasons why, that stock, amongst the fact that it also, is very concentrated to Florida, has trades at a discount to its peers. Because I mean, the numbers they produce have been great, but there are risks involved, right? And you just kind of never know when, that's going to be front page news in the Wall Street Journal. And at that point in time, it's too late if you hold the stock because it's going to be down, 25 or 30% probably on the day.
Right. Right. Okay, so interesting. Now, a lot of the companies, I'm looking at your top 10 holdings as of a month ago. Vibe was 9.19%, G-Tech 6.9%, Green Thumb 6.8%. Have any of those weightings changed at all, or are there any new constituents in your top 10 holdings?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't changed the top 10 too dramatically, either in what's in PBIC, or we also manage the StoneCastle Cannabis Growth Fund, and that it looks very similar to that. It doesn't have the private exposure; it's mostly just the publics. But we haven't truly changed that a whole lot. I mean, we continue to have some of these niche players in the U.S. So ones that we look at that trade at substantial valuation discounts to the MSOs, but are either targets for those MSOs or targets for a roll-up strategy, and are operating, good profitable businesses. So Vibe is one, Vext is one, C21 is another. Those are all examples of that. And then we have, obviously you throw in some of the other niche operators. So, someone that, in Canada, that G-Tech, which is a premium product producer here in Canada, something like a Village Farms, which, also is, producer sort of on a larger scale, but has, good quality product and is, sort of gaining the market share here in Canada. So we've got a combination of Canadian and US and, big and small. And we think that the real opportunity is in the smaller, some of the smaller US operators where you can get a multiple bump, but you're also going to get growth. And obviously the lottery ticket at the end of the day is that, being taken out by an MSO who decides they want to come into, Arizona or California in the case of Vext or Vibe.
Yeah, sure. All right, Bruce, that's a fantastic contribution as usual. We'll leave it there for now. I'll come back to you again soon. Thanks for your time today.
Okay. Hey, have a great weekend.
You bet. Bye for now.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, bye-bye.